Hi everyone, I have read your part 1 of your integrated literature review and posted feedback for you the in the assignment rubric. I want to remind you that if you have substantial changes that were recommended, those need to be done as a first step before you start part 2. So open up your original file that has part 1 in it, your Word document. Look at the rubric and make appropriate changes, and then right under at the end of your part 1, you're going to start your part 2. You're going to write this as a progressive paper, so you'll literally, every time you submit, you're going to use the same file, just adding part 2 and then part 3 as you move forward in the assignment. It is so important that you read the feedback that's provided for part 1 and integrate those changes before you start part 2. If you've made significant errors, if you have errors in your PICO question or your research question, or you need to refine your search, all that feedback has been provided to you. If you don't integrate that change, then your part 2 will have the similar problems that part 1 had, and your level of success will be compromised. So I want you to be thoughtful about reviewing that feedback, adjusting part 1 as needed, and then beginning part 2. In a progressive paper, each time you add a section, you have to go back to the very beginning and begin reading through your work to make sure that it flows well, that all the concepts are integrated. Sometimes these progressive papers can get choppy or feel almost like you're writing 4 or 3 different papers, and that's not the intent. This integrated literature review should be the biggest, most significant type of research and paper that you've done for this MSN program. It's your capstone. It demonstrates your ability to critically think, to analyze literature, to synthesize what you've read in the literature, and create an opinion about what's out there. Those are pretty advanced skills, and I want you to be thinking about what that looks like from a final paper. I know that some of the comments, especially some of the APA things, may feel nitpicky or a little tedious. And you're thinking, okay, lady, I've gotten through this entire program. I only have 1 class left. Why are you messing with me? Here's why. This is our last chance to give you the writing skills and the formatting skills that will allow you to be a writer either within your organization or if you want to professionally publish. There are a lot of master's prepared nurses that serve committees, that work together with teams, that publish work either in local journals or international journals. Sometimes it's just your hospital framework, whatever they use for communicating. All of that needs to be done in a professional manner, and this is your opportunity to get it really right. So I want you to be aware of the expectations for that, and to understand that if you have done this well and you've created a synthesized process, you will be significantly heading in the direction of being able to create a body of work that could be published, especially if it's done with a lot of intentional effort and a lot of attention to detail. This is not a paper that you can throw together on Saturday afternoon and post on Sunday. You're going to have to spend some time really thinking about this. This is big, so make it feel that way as you go through that process. Be intentional in reading the instructions, the rubric, and the literature review guide that gives you step-by-step instructions to develop your paper appropriately. From a APA standpoint, I want to remind you that when you do a literature review, you are in the literature. A book or 2 is okay, but you should not be using websites unless they are specific to a concept. For example, if you are looking at the impact of the IOM report on nursing practice in the educational setting, citing the IOM website would be appropriate, but you should not be citing multiple other websites. Most of your content needs to be coming from databases. Most of your concepts should become the last 5 years of literature. Anything outside of that 5-year framework you could include if it were seminal. Seminal means that it's the first time the topic was covered, or it was when the idea was first considered or introduced. Very often we look at seminal literature on theories. So if you wanted to use Benner, you could go all the way back into the late 80s and 90s and look at Benner's concepts for the novice to expert. That would be okay. But you want to be very careful going outside that 5-year realm. You need to be specific for why you're including and excluding populations or data sets. Just make sure in that section that you flesh that out and offered clarity in that. When you're going through databases and you're comparing articles to include and to exclude, one of the things I didn't see very many of you say as far as exclusion is you should be excluding editorials, commentaries, or opinion pieces. None of that is research-based. It's all opinion. The only difference in that is if you find a Delphi study. Delphi studies are a collection of expert opinions that are focused in, normally it's a qualitative paper on a concept. Let's say they do a Delphi study on nursing professors' opinions in the use of rubrics for creating predictable outcomes. Using a Delphi study to accomplish that would be an opinion type. That is not the same as a single author who's posted a commentary or an opinion about something at the front of a journal. Those should be excluded. They're not scholarly, and they're not considered something that we could use as evidence to support our ideas. The only caveat to that I will give you, not for this paper, this is a literature review, but if you are writing a general paper, a reflective exercise, or you're collecting some ideas, you can use, if you find 3 or 4 opinion pieces that all say the same thing, they would be substantial enough if you used a combined in-text citation and put all 3 or 4 of them in one in-text citation. When you said, the author believes that the use of qualitative studies is important in undergraduate research. And in parentheses, there are 4 individual opinions that were individually commented on that support that. Collectively, they have some weight. That's not the purpose of this assignment. This is a research, so you should be using research. Let's see, make sure that as you move forward, that whatever you have cited in your paper is on your reference list. They should gel. They should be identical. There should not be things on your reference list that have not been cited. Make sure that you're thoughtful about that and you're careful. Okay, I think that's it. The only other thing to think about is every paper needs an introduction. There's lots of variations out there in how you introduce something. At a minimum, your paper, page 2, needs to start with a level 1 heading and then provide an introductory paragraph or 2, and then move in to either another level 1 or a level 2 heading, depending on how you break that up. That's really best practice. You're going to see some variation, but at a minimum, level 1 heading starts on page 2. That level 1 heading should be the name of your paper. It should be whatever your paper title is, and then you'll move into an introduction. That first paragraph, or introductory section, does not have to have a level heading saying it's an introduction. It's understood that the first paragraph in a paper is the introduction to a paper. So just clean that up if that's been an issue for you. Next week, you've got your portfolios. Remember that once you've finished doing your portfolios, that you need to go back into Blackboard and you need to submit that assignment. It's just like you did last time when you click the little button that lets me look at it. Failing to do that will limit my ability to review your work. Your practicum logs, you guys are an expert. You know what you're doing. If you have questions or concerns, touch base with me. Remember to follow the rubric. Remember that your time logs need to match each of your practicum log entries, and that everything needs to be related to your goals and objectives, and they need to be clearly defined. If you have questions or concerns, know that I'm here. You do have this week to kind of sort things out before you have to do part 2 of your integrated literature review, so be thoughtful about planning ahead. Same thing with your portfolio. If you had issues in the first part, fix those issues before you start part 2. Most of that was just housekeeping kinds of things, but make sure that you've done that. If you have questions, ask. Send me an email, send me a carrier pigeon. Just let me know where you are and what your concerns are, and we'll work through them. I hope you guys are having a great week. Know that I'm here and I'm praying for you. Y'all take care.